Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!
Welcome to Successful Dropout. This podcast is for the outliers, the innovators, the rebels, those that dare to dream and act on their dreams. I'm your host, Kylan Ginger. Join me as we find out what it takes to drop out, grind, and succeed. How's it going, everybody? I've got some pretty exciting news. If you listen to the podcast much, you know we've been building a pretty vibrant community of truly extraordinary people who have committed to an unconventional route through life. The Successful Dropout audience has been growing a lot, and I get a lot of people reaching out to me now with all sorts of questions regarding education, dropping out, opting out, entrepreneurship, resources, networking, etc. So much so that I decided it was time to create a more accessible community on Facebook so that we can all ask and answer these kinds of questions together, as well as celebrate our successes and encourage each other during inevitable adversity. So I've created a closed Facebook group, and I want to invite you to join it. If you follow Successful Dropout, if you resonate with our philosophy and want to help me grow this thriving community, go to successfuldropout.com/group. This community is for the rebels, the outliers, the innovators, the doers, and those who dare to dream and act on their dreams. If you're a dropout, an opt-out, if you're thinking about doing one of those things, if you're a parent, even if you aren't any of those things and you graduated school, I want to invite you to join. All that matters is that you resonate with the Successful Dropout philosophy and that you enter the group with the intention to provide value to the other members and not just receive value yourself. Again, go to successfuldropout.com/group to request admission. Once you're a part of the group, introduce yourself and get involved, and I'll see you there. What is up, Successful Dropouts? Get stoked because today on the show we have Stephen Warley. Stephen is a self-employed advocate and coach. He's the founder of lifeskillsthatmatter.com as well. He believes self-employment is the future of work, and he wants to inspire you to create your own work. He teaches self-management skills to the side hustlers, freelancers, and solopreneurs. He's been self-employed for the past 17 years, and during that time, and I didn't know this, Stephen, during that time, he built a sales training business with annual revenue of $600,000, ran his business from Spain for 4 months, and has saved up enough money not to work for the next 8 years of his life. And now I was on Stephen's show just a couple weeks ago or so, and we really hit it off, got to talking about entrepreneurship, solopreneurship, self-employment, sort of the future of self-employment and everything there. And just really hit it off. So I wanted to have him on the show. I think this is going to be great. But Stephen, it's great to have you on, man. How you doing?
I'm awesome, Kylan. Thank you so much. We did have quite a good chat going on there. We could chat for hours.
I know. Yeah. Maybe we'll have you on for a segment, a couple segments or something like that.
I got a lot of segments in me.
We'll do a series or something. So let's see, something else people probably don't. So Stephen has a podcast himself. I'd recommend you go check it out, and we'll plug it later on in the show too. I think you're over 150 episodes now, and that's at lifeskillsthatmatter.com, and I've listened to a few of them. And they're just fantastic. I'd go check that out. But Stephen,
you know what? As a thought, Kylan, I actually interviewed a lot of high school students and college students. Maybe I can whip up a few episodes and we can have recommendations. So I know people are like, "That's so many episodes to go through. Can you just recommend a few?" So maybe I'll do that for you.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. But I wanted to talk about here. So you ran your business from Spain for 4 months. You saved up enough money not to work for the next 8 years of your life. So are you just not working now?
Oh, Kylan, you know me already. And I think that. I mean, can we do a quick thought exercise?
Let's
because
do it.
The people that you are talking to, if you're in high school right now, there is a darn good chance there's a point in your lifetime that we are going to decouple work from income. Because right now we think of work as I have to work because I have to earn a living, I have to pay my bills, I have to support myself.
Yes.
But we are living in a world where things are becoming automated, and that pace of automation is going faster and faster. Right now we're in the period where it's eating up a lot of that routine, kind of work, the stuff you don't have to really think about. But then it is going to start eating away at work that is related to problem solving, creativity, that sort of thing. So what the heck do you do? And that's, I think, I am experiencing that a little bit. Like, yeah, I could hang out and not work, but I think that it's basic and core to us as humans to want to connect with others, to want to create, to want to express ourselves. And I think that is why I'm always going to work. I mean, the idea of retiring in the traditional way that our parents wanted to retire, it's not what I want to do. And in fact, a lot of those folks, maybe you have grandparents or people of that age who retired, and a lot of them don't even know what to do with themselves because their identity was so wrapped up in their work. And so I just think, so yeah, I'm always going to work. And I guess I'm so excited about working on this. I feel like I've lived this lifestyle for so long that I have too much information and resources and mistakes that I've made that I need to share that with other people.
Well, now is the time to do it, man. That's perfect. I love what you say about this different mentality around retiring, because, well, first of all, when you talk about work and why people sort of have this draw to continue building and creating, I think at the core of it, it's because we find meaning in our work, and finding meaning is like, it's a core need of, you have like, you need food, shelter, some of these basic things, but then one of those basic human needs, I think, is to find meaning in life. And I think the way to do that is through work, whatever you spend your day accomplishing and working towards or building. And so that's why you see a lot of people who do retire and they have this mindset like, I don't have to work anymore for the last bit of my life here. They, like, it sounds harsh, but like, they're statistically, like, they will die sooner than somebody who doesn't retire and keeps on working, or at least has some sort of hobby or something. And I think it's because of that. It's what gets you out of bed any morning, what sort of gives you this life and to draw on, and it's the things that you do and the work and what you create. So and
it's also like part of what I'm trying to educate people on is that we have a certain view of what work is, a paradigm, if you will. And what I like to let people know is that work has not always been the way that you think it has.
So how do people think work has been?
I think it's still, even for your audience, there are probably around still lots of people who think that the only way to survive is I have to go get a job. I love asking college students, like, why'd you go to college? And the immediate response is to get a job. Rarely do college students tell me because I want to work for myself. I want to create my work. I want to find myself. I want to be my true self all the time. That is not the response you get, because it's that ingrained that sometimes I get a little bummed. I mean, I'm looking to your listeners, high school students and college students, to really start creating this new fabric, this new version of work, which is, I think, more human, and what you've just described, our basic need to create meaning for ourselves through the expression of work.
Yeah.
So I think we need to break this idea that the big corporations, the big government agencies are the ones that we have to go for. And when you think about those structures, they actually are designed in such a way that they repress our desire to find meaning, because they need us to do specific things over and over again. They don't want us to be our true selves, because that's very messy and chaotic, and that does not work for how the industrial system has been set up.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. We sort of have, I know I used to have this view of work like it was this thing that's separated from me. Like, I need to go punch in, I work, and then I punch out, and then I'm not working anymore. And through the last 5 years or so, it's definitely become, I think of myself more as like, I am my own company. I'm Kylan Incorporated. And it's no longer there's no longer this separation, I guess you could say. And I
love that you're saying that, because that's something I hear coming out in my interviews over and over again, which is also something that is unhuman. The idea of leaving your house every day to go hang out with these people and spend the majority of your life with these people that you didn't choose, and then you squeeze in the people you did choose in your life, your family and your friends, that does not make any sense. And for 10,000 years of human civilization, we did not live like this. It's only really been the last 100, 150 years. And I'm excited about the internet and the way that you and I are working, that we can start coming back to that. We can start being human again. And instead of supporting corporations and large governments, we can support each other in creating work.
I love it. So practically talking now, how can people go about doing this? What are some of the practical ways that I guess people can start, working for themselves, start building that, me incorporated sort of vision?
I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to say that I pretty good shot that I'm going to give you some pretty unconventional advice compared to most people that come on your show.
That's what we're used to on the show, or that's what we like anyways. Let's do
because
it.
I think a lot of times when people ask, how do I start a business? They're looking for all the things that seem like I'm doing business, right? How do I set up as an LLC or sole proprietorship? What should I do for my brand, my website, my logo? What about my product service? All that stuff, right? Yeah. And I'm like, nope, none of that. You got to start with yourself, because you are the first resource of your business, and you are its biggest obstacle, and you are the only constant in your business. So every decision you make, even if you end up having a team or managing hundreds of people one day, you are still the thread in all of that. And if you do not assess yourself and really get to know yourself for yourself, you are never going to build a business model and attract a community and build a product or service that's really, truly in alignment with your values, with your strengths and abilities, with your needs, and a community that you want to serve. And you're always going to have that anxiety that you're always going to have to say, oh, I have to figure out SEO. I got to get more email subscribers. This guy over here is 100,000 a year. I got to have that too. And it's so making intentional action. The more you get to know yourself, Kylan, then you get to make intentional actions, intentional decisions, intentional thoughts, rather than constantly reacting. And I think it's so exciting. I'm so glad more people are interested in entrepreneurship than ever before. But what kind of bums me out is people are looking at other people's success and say, I want to be just like them. And I will tell you one thing, you can't be just like them, because you aren't them and they aren't you.
Yeah. I love it, because that plays right into the way that we think about schooling too. Like for the last 100 years plus, schooling has been this one way, sort of this one pipeline cookie cutter way that it's supposed to produce the same result. And a lot of the times it does, but there is no one way to be successful or to get an education. Everybody's, every path is unique as the individual, essentially.
And you have to find that old version of success of like, sure, I made a lot of money. I think when you do these sorts of interviews, people want to kind of hear that a little bit. But at the end of the day, I've interviewed millionaires, but I am not any more or less impressed by them than somebody who's just starting out in their first couple of years. I'm interested in everybody's genuine, unique story. That's what lights my fire. That's what I want people to be. It saddens me to think that somebody made a lot of money, and this happens a lot. A lot of people have a lot of success, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not any happier than I was before I started this. In fact, I might even be more miserable. Right, because you're kind of, why you're doing it, because you're constantly living up to somebody else's standards, which is also an instinctual need that we have from all the brain books I've read, that we are hardwired to want to be accepted by others. But we put this on steroids in this economic system that we're now living in. It's even worse with social media. And it's now important more than ever that you have to really know yourself and educate yourself, because that's the starting point where you can start really moving through life on your terms and not constantly reacting to everybody else's ideals.
So should I not be looking at, say, a successful friend, or like I have a very successful cousin. Should I not be looking at him and his sort of life trajectory and trying to emulate all of his decisions and do all the same things he did and have all the same habits that he has? Is that not, a good way if I want to experience the same success he has? Because that's what I feel like a lot of people do. They say, I want success. I want to be like this person or this person. And so they sort of retrace that person's steps and try to essentially emulate that. And it sounds like you're saying that is not the answer.
I'm going to say this, as I always say, I wrote a whole blog post about this. Like, at the end of the day, you got to do what works for you. You do. Mm-hmm. And what I would say to that, I would say, you don't necessarily want to permanently emulate people. You want to be inspired by them. Mm-hmm. And you can say, that's interesting that they did that. I want to give it a shot. and you experiment with it. And you, for a week, 30 days, 6 months, depending on what the thing is that you're trying. It's a habit, or it's a process, a system, trying on a career, business model, whatever it is. So what I'm trying to get people to do is stop making these concrete, permanent decisions. Just because this other person did that for 5 years doesn't mean I should. Let me try it on first to see if it works for me. Because then you want to make it your own. You might discover, oh no, I do not want to do this. For example, there's a lot of people out there, saying, you can make all this money from affiliate marketing, right?
Yeah.
This is the thing. People get very fixated on the money. We always look at the wealth part of this stuff, right? We don't like to look under the hood to say, how is that wealth created? And if you want to be an affiliate marketer, that means you better love creating content, and a lot of content, day in and day out. And if you don't see yourself doing that as a lifestyle, affiliate marketing is not the business model for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, I run a website with it's an affiliate marketing forum with over 90,000 members. So I see that all the time. I mean, and it's absolutely correct. What you're talking about,
you gotta just like what you gotta do. I mean, it sounds so corny, and then people are like, I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know how to do this. And it's at this stage, it's about, we need to teach high school students and college students to look at their career and their life in a different way. For that period, I would say into your early 20s, it's really a series of experiments and apprenticeships. It's a lot of intentional acquisition of skills, and not just doing it because this is what everybody else is doing, but really giving yourself permission at this point in your life to do what you feel, what you want to do, not what you think you're supposed to do. Just because it seems like, all right, everybody's, when I was growing up, everybody around me was going to become a doctor or a lawyer. So I thought I was going to be a lawyer. Then I went to college, and I fell onto the media path and realized, ooh, this feels right. This excites me. And that's what you want to look for is, do things excite you or do they drain you? I'm a big believer in just getting in touch with your gut, Kyle. And I think a lot of times people want to think their way out of all this stuff. And that's a big part of the economic system we live under. But we're now moving into a world that it's going to be more important to be a human again, to actually feel how does this something feel to you? You might not even be able to put it into words, but you just know it's not right, or it is, or you're not sure.
Well, see, what I hear you saying, Stephen, is so you're saying basically that the priority is finding something that you love to do, finding something that you were born to do, that you're innately, good at, that you really resonate with, and having that become your work. Just sort of you and your work become. Well, let me just stop you
there, because I know there's a lot of this debate about the passion purpose thing, and I'm even starting to kind of like think that a little bit, because it's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure, right? To think like, oh, there's this one thing I'm born to do. Let me tell you one thing, Kylan. When I was graduating from college, never in my wildest dreams, 20 years later, that I would say that I would be doing a podcast teaching people about self-employment. Mm-hmm. Because at that time, I didn't think I would ever work for myself, and there was no such thing as a podcast. Mm-hmm. So what it is, it's self-awareness, which is the most important life skill that you need to learn, because it's about paying attention to your tendencies, what you're drawn to, your feelings, paying attention how you to react to others, how they react to you. So it's always unfolding. And I think as you go through life, the thread of what it is that you do, and you do well, and you like doing it, and you really care about it, it becomes clear over time. I think that's where we have to kind of reverse engineer this and kind of lean into the uncertainty of life, and not saying that I think a lot of times, myself included, there's something about being in our 20s at that stage of our life where we desperately, in the adult development trajectory, we want to have everything figured out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Having passed through that stage of life, you will not have everything figured out. And even if you do, life is going to blow up things on you anyway. So that's why you have to really kind of tune into that tendency and be open to opportunities. I know people are like, gosh, that sounds really fuzzy, but that's the best way that I can describe it. So that way you are true to yourself, your values, your strengths, you're kind of enjoying that exercise of whatever that you want to get better at, but at the same time, you're opening yourself up to opportunities. Like, I love writing, I love creating content, I love stories. I fell into television news. Now I'm basically an explainer, trainer, coach to explain and tell stories about self-employment. So I'm still using my thread, but in different ways.
Mm-hmm. But that's tough for a lot of people to be at, because I remember being 18 years old, 19, like even 21, 22 years old, and you really want to have like your life trajectory figured out. Like that's when you're trying to make these 5-10 year goals, especially if you're a very motivated person. But it's like you
Can
said.
I stop you right there?
Yeah,
there are no 5 and 10 year goals anymore in the economy that we're moving in.
That's where I was going. Yeah,
20th century mindset, because we used to live under a paradigm where you can have 5 and 10 year goals, but just like I said, I couldn't have imagined.
Some jobs don't exist right now that'll exist even 12 months from now.
I had the opportunity in 1998 to work at the Winter Olympics in Japan for CBS Sports. The job that I had was working in the archives. That means as producers wanted different video, I would go find it for them and then give it to them so they could put their pieces together for the broadcast.
Sounds really exciting.
But I got to go to the Olympics.
Oh, did you actually go?
I got to go to events. I'm sorry?
You actually went?
Yeah. I mean, when you worked at CBS Sports, they gave you, you filled out this sheet so you could like pick out the events that you could go to that day whenever you weren't working. So I would go to all kinds of events for free. So let me tell you. Cool. I had some pretty fun corporate experiences. I did. But my point is that job doesn't exist anymore because that has all been digitized. Now technology has taken over that job. There's somebody just that stays in New York no matter where the Olympics are and helps coordinate that, or producers can get their own video via their computer. So the idea of having a 10-year goal, it's more about having it's about having more quarterly goals, or every 6 months you should be checking in. So I think when I was leaving college, the rule was you have to stay in your first job for at least a year. I didn't. I left after 8 months. The day I got a promotion to get a job that paid $10 an hour. So the idea is that you have to, it's almost like thinking of your career as a series of apprenticeships and to learn something and experience it very quickly. So you're always doing something. I think that's the thing is we want to feel like we have a direction, that we're doing something, we're learning, we're making progress. And we want to keep our loved ones happy, to think that we're not like, screw up or anything. So it's not like, don't go hang out on a beach for 6 months, but maybe you can learn a skill. You're like, I want to try writing. I'm going to give this a shot for 6 months, and I'm going to pitch myself to an inbound marketing agency because I know they're going to make me write a lot, right? So I think that is the better way, because then after a few of these, say if you have 5 to 6 of those types of experiences over 3 years, then you're really going to get a sense, because the only way to really learn about yourself, Kyle, is you got to do it. You can't read about it. You can't listen your way out of this. You can't just talk your way out of it. You got to do stuff. And a lot of corporate jobs don't really provide you with the freedom to do as much as you can do. So that's why you should be changing. Think of your first 3 years of your career as a series of projects that you're trying to learn about yourself, new skills, and how you work with others. And if there's an opportunity that remotely excites you, go for it. I would say the people that I interview who are in high school and college, that is how they do it. And they are excited about it. Their parents are so supportive of them. And they are creating value as they are leaning into uncertainty.
I love that. Creating value as you're leaning into uncertainty, which is something, we talk about a lot on the show, pursuing fears, leaning into uncertainty. There's a great book out there, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Have you read that one?
I have not, but I'm down with it. I probably could read that book and be nodding in my head. Yes, preach it, Mark Manson.
Yeah, Mark Manson. Yeah, that's a good one. And then there's the War of Art. And in the War of Art, these are two great books around sort of this subject, I think, that people would get a kick out of. But the War of Art, I know specifically, he talks about fear and how you can use fear almost like a compass, that at any point in time you can sort of look at this fear compass and the direction that you should most likely head is probably the direction you're most apprehensive or fearful of, and you can kind of count that as true north, if you will, and it's this leaning into uncertainty and stuff.
Can I tell you something I've learned about fear? There's one fear that's the worst of them all. I'm starting to get to the point, and I think it's the root of all fear. And it's this. Back to how our human minds are designed, that need for acceptance. We are generally afraid. When people tell me like why they're afraid of self-employment, it all comes back to, I'm afraid of what other people think of me.
Yeah.
And I know when you're starting out in life, that fear is even bigger. it weakens over time as you recognize it and you start to learn, like, all right, I can't keep everybody happy. There's people in life who are going to like me and people who aren't. So if you can just start being aware of that fear and all of its different forms, that it's you're afraid of what other people are thinking of you. Just, you got to focus on what you're doing. And a lot of times if they judge you or they're making you feel embarrassed or they're making fun of you, it's generally because they're insecure and they're expressing that exact same fear back at you.
Yep. It's absolutely, there's a quote out there. It says, if you don't want to be criticized, say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing.
Right. And there's like people who are going to write you and be like, that guy was terrible. I cannot believe him. I don't understand anything he's saying. And then there's other people who are going to be like, oh my gosh, that's one thing that he said was like the missing puzzle piece. So like, now I can go do this other thing. That's just how life works. You got to be yourself.
Yeah. And people will judge you for not succeeding in the short term, basically. And I feel like that's a big fear. Like if I don't have this salary or have a house or a couple cars by the time I'm 25, that's sort of, I feel like what society, there's this burden that society places on us, and those are sort of the parameters I feel like, and people, if people are afraid of that judgment.
But you're describing wealth as something that is seen. That is the critical mistake we make as Americans. We think of wealth as things that we see, that are tangible.
Correct, yeah.
True wealth is intangible and is developed, and it's not just in the form of money. Before stuff that you can buy comes money. Before money comes relationships, and those relationships comes meeting and really understanding your values, so you know who you can connect with to build that trust.
Can you just say that one more time? That was a great.
Let's work backwards.
Yeah.
So you have stuff, that's status symbols. Then people are like, oh my gosh, he's doing okay. And before that, you got to get money to buy the stuff.
Of course.
And before the money comes the relationships. And before the relationships, you have to start knowing who you're going to reach out to. In order to know who to reach out to, you have to really understand your values, your needs, and your abilities. And that is real wealth.
Absolutely, yeah. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier, where you can have these two priorities. One priority is what you're talking about, which is this priority of self-awareness, which is what you really want to shoot for. But a lot of people still shoot for this priority of just making money or getting the good job. And even if you go into entrepreneurship trying to do this stuff, it can easily end up, 10 years down the road, you've built something in such a way to where you hate what you do. Maybe you're making good money, but you hate what you do.
And I did that. My last business made me a lot of money.
The sales one? Sales coaching?
And I was doing digital sales training for broadcasters. It wasn't the people that I ended up really wanting to serve. Super nice people, just people who are at a stage of their career that didn't really want to change. And I was creating this content. It didn't feel very inspiring. I didn't want to teach people about digital marketing before they stuck me in the ground saying that's the only thing I did. And that's when I decided to slowly shut it down, because it wasn't about the money. I have enough. For whatever reason, I have a lot. My wife and I have very simple tastes. And that's why I'm building this business. This is motivating me. This is not just a business. This feels like a mission I'm on, because people need to wake up. Because a lot of times people ask, how long does it take to get started, to go through a process like this? It's like 2 to 3 years. It's like the sooner in life that you can get on board with this, the better you will be. It gets harder and harder. Not that it can't be done when you're 70. It just gets harder.
The process of self-employment?
Of self-discovery and self-employment.
Self-discovery and self-employment, yeah.
Because the one advantage you have, a lot of times people, when they're starting, they're like, gosh, when I'm starting out, I don't have any connections, I don't have any money. They see everything that they don't have.
Right.
The thing that you do have is unbridled raw energy and unlimited amounts of it. And you're going to start, the only way that I started really realizing my energy was in my early 30s, when it started to decline, whether you like it or not. It's just the way it happens. So you have an advantage to go and try and do lots of stuff. I mean, that's why Silicon Valley loves sucking up 20-year-olds. That's why the advertising agencies love sucking up 20-year-olds. That's why the military loves sucking up 20-year-olds, because they are clean slates, they are raw energy, and then can be molded and directed. What I'm asking you to do is to mold and direct your own energy. Don't let somebody else do it.
I love it. Now, along these same lines, are you familiar with and can you speak to the subject of transferable skills and career capital?
Sure. So I think if you can, no matter
Because I feel like this goes hand in hand with sort of experimenting and discovering, where you belong.
yeah, I think we have to kind of look at the since routine work and routine processes are going to be taken over by machines, the idea of learning specific skills, so the half-life of skills or degrees are declining more quickly. So what I mean by that is if you learned how to be a journalist and write articles for newspapers, that skill would have given you a career for 40 years. Well, already today, there is artificial intelligence that writes journalism stories that you would never know that it was written by a machine. And so that means it's not that they can throw out that skill, but that exact skill of doing who, what, where, and why type of writing, that specific skill is starting to become less valuable. So what we have to do is we have to go deeper as a journalist and say, well, what can I do with my writing skills in a different way? How, what's happening is technology is morphing our skills. So kind of the basic skills that I think everybody really, really needs to understand is the skill of self-awareness, really understanding yourself, a life skill. Number two, it's writing. I know there's people are like, gosh, I'm a terrible writer. I never want to write. But writing is a skill that even if you never make money from it directly, it helps you clarify and organize your thoughts. And that is really, really important in anything that you want to do.
Yeah.
I also think some sort of sales skills or just relationship skills, no matter where you are on the spectrum of introvert, extrovert, humans evolve to deal with each other, to come together. Nobody has ever done anything all by themselves, ever. Mm-hmm. So I would say that is another super important skill, that idea of knowing how to engage others, relate to others, understanding what they want and need, and understanding how to express your needs to them in a way that you can work together. I think those are some pretty basic skills. I know a lot of people might come on your show and say, become a coder. And I think that's a hard skill that you can do, especially if you naturally gravitate toward it. But recognize that skill is going to change over time. Whatever there is, I remember my first job. I'm going to really date myself. I was at a PR firm in 1997, and like back then, they're always like, what programs do you know how to use? And I would say the ones that I would use, and then I would also say, listen, in my career, there's going to be so many new programs. The skill is that I can adapt and be able to learn new technology. That's the skill you want to hire
there you
for.
Go. Yeah.
Don't worry about if I don't know this program or not. I'll learn it. And that's something even at 43 years old, I am doing for myself today. I never want to end up as an irrelevant because I don't understand technology. I am constantly making myself learn new things, even if it's painful.
Mm. So can we really quick, so, it sounds like in regards to building career capital, transferable skills, it's these soft skills that you can sort of cultivate over multiple different experiences and jobs that you'll end up experimenting with, or multiple different hard skills maybe that you'll experiment with, like coding. Yeah. You get involved in coding for a while. Is this something that's for you? Maybe not. But maybe you pick up some of these valuable soft skills. So, but really quick,
but the soft skills are soft skills are the ones that are going to make you adaptable and flexible, and at a time when your hard skills might become irrelevant or might change in a very different way.
So you're saying that basically people who are, say, studying in college right now or looking at their future, you're saying it's probably not helpful for them to think, I'm going to be doing this one thing, maybe this one job or hard skill for the next 30 to 40 years, that's not something you should plan on.
Exactly what I'm saying. What you should plan on is being the best human and really develop those soft skills, because those soft skills, those are the skills you can count on for the next 40 years.
So I'd be curious just to go through those soft skills really quick, sort of make a list here, and I can put those in the show notes. So we've talked about one seems to be writing, communication, but keep on going. I'm
going to have my life skills that matter, my 10 life skills that matter, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
So one is building community. You really have to intentionally build.
Is this on your website, by the way?
Yeah, and so we're going to send you a link to this, because this is what you should do. So building that community around yourself, because this is not about just who you're going to work with your colleagues, but it's people that excite you in the way that you meet friends, that you're really interested in what they're doing. I do this all the time. Like, I'm super interested in what you're doing. You and I are totally connected. We're going to know each other for a while, whether you like it or not.
Good. I'm glad.
And so another unconventional is purging. Because as you go through life, you're always accumulating stuff. So when you're starting out early in life, you don't have as much stuff to get rid of, physical stuff, relationships, obligations, all that sort of thing. So every so often, I would even say at least once a year, sometimes quarterly, that you really want to go through a purge of your life, and you want to get rid of everything that does not have meaning to you, or that is not giving you energy.
Yeah. Or it's not contributing to, say, whatever you're pursuing.
Exactly. I mean, you just have to you have to create space. Your brain and your time and your energy only have a very limited capacity. So you have to constantly create space. Mm-hmm. I'm a gardener, so I kind of get that natural thing. You're constantly getting rid of things to let new things grow.
I like that, yeah.
Tell your story. Like, tell your real story. Even if you don't have it all figured out right now, even if somebody says, what do you want to do? Don't tell them what you think they want to hear. Tell them what you want to do, or what you're trying to figure out, or even say that I don't have it all figured out, but these are a couple things that are kind of catching my interest right now. Because when you do that, you're coming from a more passionate place, a more authentic place, and people are much more interested in helping that type of energy. You're just going to tell somebody what they want to hear. Like, I was recently, somebody said, Steven, I just lost my job, and I just need to get a job. I got to pay the bills. And I'm like, no one's going to want to hire that right now. I'm going to tell you that. People don't want to hire people who just want a job anymore. That's gone.
Yeah.
I've said practice self-awareness, most important life skill. If you don't remember anything else from this interview, it's practicing self-awareness. Best way to do that is two things. Journal, write to yourself every day, whatever you're feeling, get your thoughts out so you can start seeing patterns in your thinking. Number two, at least start being aware of your strongest reactions, like those snap reactions, Kylan, you have, whether they're positive or they're negative. Just start being aware that those are happening. And the next step is try to start understanding why those are happening. Where did that come from? And can you adjust it? Got to be a lifelong learner. We've been talking a lot about this because those hard skills are going to constantly be changing. So you really want to start not waiting. And unfortunately, the entire educational system has said to you that you have to wait for everybody else to tell you what to learn, right? Biggest mistake. Follow the directions. Worst educational policy ever. So you really have to be self-directing learning, having learning goals. Back to the idea of having apprenticeships maybe for the first 3 years of your career. Yeah. The idea of aligning your habits with your goals. I think a lot of times people have this goal of things that they want to do, but they think they're going to brute force it in order to accomplish that. They're just going to hustle, willpower. They're going to stay up, work as hard as they can, just keep pushing through. And they're working totally out of alignment with who they are, their natural tendencies, what they're good at. So like you and I were talking before we jumped on that, I am writing a book about the new work, the future of work. Yep. And I am writing every morning between 7 and 11 because that's my best mental time. I know that's what I call my peak performance period because I've done a lot of this self-awareness to be like, yeah, my best mental activity, sharpest, best flow, effortless work happens between 7 and 11.
And you did that through experimenting, writing at different time periods as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm terrible. I even knew this back in college. I was never that student that pulled all-nighters. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I even have a marriage rule with my wife that after 8 o'clock at night, we're not allowed to have big, heavy conversations because my brain's mush.
Same. That's fantastic.
And it has saved a lot of arguments,
Yeah. Well, half the time they're not even, it just gets so escalated because you both are so tired, and by the time morning comes around, you've forgotten all about it.
Yeah, and it's so easy to bring that same conversation, like this fresh perspective. I'm not as angsty. I feel defensive. I feel much more engaged. I'm empathetic to my wife. And so just knowing those things about yourself. And also from my historical research, I was a history major, my experience, and from the hundreds of interviews I've done with entrepreneurs, we only have as humans a capacity of doing mental work for about 3 to 4 hours a day. And I know there's this big old myth out there, be an entrepreneur, be successful. It's another status symbol that I work 10-hour days, I work 100-hour weeks, all this crazy stuff. I never have, and I've been very successful under my definition. And so what you want to do is understand that peak performance period for yourself so you can design your workday around that, not feeling compelled to work 8 hours. It's not that I'm not doing other types of work, but they require less attention, less energy. and I save my most important work for the morning, so that by the time 11:30 rolls around, I have like done my best for that day, and I feel great about it. And that way, I used to be chronically anxious at the end of every workday. I'm not anymore, because I know I'm doing what needs to get done with the time and energy that I have available. That's another thing I want to let you know is just because you're awake for 16 hours doesn't mean every hour of your day is equal in terms of the amount of energy that you have. It's not. Yeah. And so it's more important to manage your energy, not your time.
I like that. We've had Nathan Ladka on the show, and he talks in a very similar fashion about he views it like he has a health bar of his decision making and sort of brain power health bar. And the more decisions he makes throughout the day, the more it drains that bar of energy, basically. And so he was talking
it's almost
about
like you're like a video game character, and your energy is going down.
Exactly, your mana or whatever, however nerdy you want to get about it. But yeah. So he would say things like, he would pick out his outfit the night before, so he wouldn't have to waste time making even the decision on what to wear, and he could dedicate as much energy towards the decisions, sort of the 80-20 principle. The 20% of decisions that produce 80% of the results. But I like you're taking it a step further and saying there's an optimal time maybe for you too. And for you, it sounds like it's more in the morning. Some people could,
and it might be different. You might be a night owl, or
for me, it's later on at night.
It might be 2 hours in the morning. Yeah, it might be 2 hours in the morning, it might be 2 hours in the afternoon. But you got to play with it. And it might change over your lifetime too.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to add to is the first hour of my day, I'm a robot. Everything is a habit. I make no decisions because I've designed it that way. So that way I do all my stretching, breakfast, feed the dog, go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, all that stuff. It's all step by step by step. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds like very obsessive compulsive, but it works for me. So that by the time I start writing, I have not wasted any of my brain energy on making any decisions.
Interesting.
I know that's not always going to be possible, especially if you ever have a kid, but that's where I am at right now. So if you can do it, and that's the thing too, you're never going to have a perfect world. I always tell people that I have preferences about what is going to optimize my productivity, but that life happens, and there's not always the perfect scenario, but things get done. So it's not, I think sometimes there's a lot of people who get very frustrated and like, my exact criteria for how I work is not being met, so I can't work at all. Like, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what you should be doing. It's always trying to put yourself in the most fertile ground possible, but recognize that not every day is going to be, rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we got through 6 soft skills. Maybe.
Yes, so I can quickly go.
Goals.
Reframe your mindset, the ability to reframe your mindset in the way that I'm asking you right now, to be like, if you can start learning how to challenge and question any paradigm that has been taught to you, or any way of doing things, like how we've all been taught about work, to say, hey, is there another way, and start experimenting with that. That is going to be a skill that is going to serve you well in the world that we're moving into. Plan your actions. That's that idea, once again, of you want to start reacting less, and you want to start being intentional more. And it's not that I'm asking you to constantly be in your head about every single thing that you do in life, but it's starting to pay attention to certain things, so that way you can improve upon them. You might be really interested in this whole energy thing. Like, I want to know my peak performance period. So that's where you want to start setting up some experiments, checking in with yourself, having a plan to see, when am I going to do this? How am I going to know if it's working? What are some things I'm looking for? And then, kind of make adjustments from there. So it's about being much more intentional with your reactions, so you're not reacting to what others expect of you. Embrace discomfort. You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This idea of leaning into uncertainty, because we are moving out of an economic system where there's linear growth, where there's sequential, like this happens and this happens, this happens. When I was growing up, I was taught that there was a corporate ladder. Well, the rungs have fallen off the corporate ladder. And that is, so we have to really learn that growth actually comes, you were saying this before earlier about fear, but fear and growth and any type of obstacle, that's where growth comes from. I think our marketing system has tried to believe that the best life is the easiest life. And that is not true. And I know there's a lot of people in my space who want to tell you, like, this is so easy. I make $100,000 every month, and so can you. Well, I would say that you're actually, if you buy that snake oil, you're just making them wealthier. It's not necessarily true. From my experience, it takes 2 to 3 years to go through this process. There are no overnight successes,
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
embrace discomfort. Closing out, we already talked about managing energy. This idea of finding your peak performance period. Managing your energy, not your time. Get rest. It's a hibernation season, as I call it. I'm not sure when this interview is going to be published, but wintertime, I need to sleep 9 to 10 hours a night. Just what I need to feel very productive the next day. During the summer, I can get by in 7 to 8 hours of sleep. But the idea that you're getting by on 6 hours or less of sleep, most people can't do that. And the idea that you're giving yourself, once again, you're playing games with your head. You're giving yourself more time, but it's not quality time because the energy is not of good quality. So it's better to get a good night's rest because you will get more work done in less time.
It's incredible that you're self-aware enough to know that you have to even sleep. You can sleep less in the summer. You have to sleep more in the winter. I love that, man.
Well, it's just paying attention, right? That's when people are like, what is self-awareness? It's paying attention to yourself, but then specific aspects of yourself. I mean, I think we're going to do a special offer for your listeners. I do a whole 12-week course. It's free, and it's just one challenge every week to pay attention to one aspect of your life, because that's self-awareness. Because even when you pay attention to one aspect, all of a sudden there's all these other side benefits that you don't have to overthink of it that happen to your life. Like when you choose to get a good night's rest and you just focus on doing that, you'll be surprised how many other things start happening in your life in a very positive, good way just because of that one thing you chose to pay attention to.
So this course actually breaks down some practical ways that you can observe and record basically some of these things for yourself.
Yeah, they go out every Sunday. So that way you have a whole week. I give a whole list of instructions about this is the one thing that you're going to focus on this week. This is how to do it, what you're going to look for, and that sort of thing. And people love these things. I was shocked because I thought, like, this seems like a fun idea. But I was so surprised that a lot about email open rates and stuff that after 12 weeks, that 12th email is still getting a 40% open rate. And I've done a lot of email marketing in my life, and I have never had an open rate for a sequence that has gone that long.
That's incredible.
People really love this stuff. And it's because I want it to be a little fun and interactive instead of taking online quizzes. It's about interacting with yourself and the world around you and other people to help you learn about yourself, because that's the best way to learn about yourself.
Yeah. I love it, Stephen. I'm going to sign up for that myself, and we'll get to that here in a second. I want you to plug all that. We'll talk about your show a little bit more. For now, we're coming up to the end of our time, so I've got 2 more questions for you that I ask every guest who comes on the show. And the first one is, what parting advice do you have for any of our listeners who are thinking of dropping out, of stepping off the conveyor belt, taking back control of their lives and their education, but they haven't quite made that step yet? What parting advice do you have for them?
If you didn't get it by now, I want you to feel. I want you to feel what's right for you and to really know it in your deepest part. Write about it, talk about it with other people. And because I know a lot of you might have to explain this to your parents or any other loved ones. And sometimes that's really hard because a lot of times they don't know why you want to do these different things that are falling out of the norms, right?
Yep.
But they're doing that just because they love you. They don't understand what you want to do, so they're trying to protect you. That's where it's coming from. So I know a lot of times there's a lot of frustration around that. You get really angsty about, why don't these people understand me? So just be patient with them. That's what I'm asking you to do. And then simultaneously, you have to go find your people. Like I was emailing back and forth with a 17-year-old who's about to go into college. He's like, I'm really interested in human performance, but nobody around is really interested. What do I do? And the gift of the internet allows you to connect with other people. It's such an amazing time that we live in that you can find people who are on your exact same page. Like, Kylan, I feel like I've known you forever, and we've only talked twice because we have this shared interest in such a deep way that we already have a shared language. And that's, find a Facebook group, go on Reddit. There's so many different forums out there where you can find your people and build relationships.
Yeah, which is I didn't mean to plug this, but you kind of led up to it perfectly. We're about probably a month. I don't know. You'll start seeing some teaser announcements soon from launching our very own forum at successfuldropout.com. So we're actually launching a forum. We're going to move off the Facebook group. It's going to be our own little corner of the internet where you'll be able to discuss all this stuff and interact with people who are right where you are in the journey and people that are where you would like to be in the journey. And I also hope people like Stephen and some of the other guests on the show can get involved as well. So there's some cool opportunities.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because I always say it's like when you see other people who are kind of like you start believing in the possibility for yourself. That is more motivating, I've learned, Kylan, than trying to emulate the habits of somebody who's super successful.
Yeah. I love it. So, Stephen, then on the flip side here, what parting advice do you have for our listeners who have already taken that leap? They're already on that journey. So just some parting advice.
Hang in there, because I know it's a tough road. And a lot of times, like, this is not a lifestyle where every day is just amazing. It's life. There's some down days. You get stuck. And reach out to other people who are working on their own, or make sure that you have that community around you. Reach out to Kylan, reach out to me. We want to pick you back up, because this is the future. This is happening. This is not my vision. This is not something I'm wishing for. After 17 years of living like this, I've felt these trends, and they are accelerating. And this is where things are going. And we need to come together into a movement and to support one another. So if you're having any doubts at all, it's better to stay on this path and to delve into those doubts and to reach out for help.
I love it. So, Stephen, what's the best way that people can connect with you? So to plug all your stuff here, and then tell us about the resources you're giving us.
Sure. You can go to lifeskillsthatmatter.com, because as you know by now, I believe that life skills are the way to really are the foundation of organizing your life and designing the work that you want to be able to do.
Yep.
And I have a podcast, which you can find on iTunes, Stitcher, and a whole bunch of other apps. Same name, Life Skills That Matter. And a little giveaway for your listeners, that 12-week free course on how to assess yourself, 12 different areas of your life. Also gets you in that practice of developing a self-awareness practice. You can go to lifeskillsthatmatter.com/successful dropout.
Awesome. Well, Successful Dropouts, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around the most, and you've been hanging out with Stephen and Kylan today, learning what it takes to drop out, grind, and succeed. For everything we talked about today, head over to successfuldropout.com and type Stephen into the search bar, and the show notes will pop right up with everything we talked about. And as always, stay hungry, stay foolish.